We definitely heard a lot today. And, one of the things that was really inspiring is just thinking about, just what it means to multiply. We all want to grow, we want to multiply, we want to leave a lasting effect, but how do we do that? And what is multiplication? One scripture that we can look at is John chapter 12, verse 24. Jesus says, very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it only remains a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Well, let's just look at what happens to seeds. You bury them in the dirt, they absorb minerals, and they begin to sprout and find water. An amazing thing is happening, but it appears as if nothing's happening if you're looking above ground. If you were to scout a land and looked in the field and that was full of seeds, and you were to give a report, you'd believe that there's nothing there to sustain you. You'd be sincere, you're being honest, but you're dead wrong. There's some things we can be sincere and honest about, but we're dead wrong, and it can shock us what it is. We talked about inspiration, and we talk about, inspiring faith, and we want to inspire the faith to multiply. And since we were talking about Daniel, we see this Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as Ronell just brought up, and their faith was incredible. And we want to baptize people who have that kind of faith, where they'll last and where they'll stand. I remember when I first became a disciple, we always counted the cost and said, hey, Noel, if the church goes away, what do you do? And when we study the Bible with people, we're supposed to be studying the Bible with the attitude of, if all the leaders are gone, do I have the faith that this person would carry it on if we never got to spoke again? That's how you know you made a real disciple. And that's what we all desire to do. But when you read about people like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you're not inspired by them. You think you are, you admire them. Inspires to put the desire in someone so they'll do the actual action. What we do is we admire them and we give them praise, how awesome they are. But none of us are looking to jump in the fire. We're not inspired. Inspired, it gives you a desire to action. We admire. We sit back and we cheer. But there's a reason why not. There's a reason why these things happen. When you look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you think, hey, they just was born like that. They were awesome. Well, let's look a little further. In the scripture, going back to seeds, in 1 Corinthians 3, 6, 8, one waters, one plants. You read, if you look at in Psalm 126, sowing seeds of tears. There's some things we could be so certain about, but we can be dead wrong. You may have heard that Jeremiah was the weeping prophet, that he didn't have any converts. And he preached to a hard field during this time. And if he looked at the field and the hearts, he would say that there's no fruit here. And he'd be sincere. He'd be honest, but he'd be dead wrong. See, there's some things that when you read the scriptures that you overlook. Jeremiah chapter 1 says, in the 13th year of Josiah, the word of the Lord came to him. Well, that was when Josiah was 21. Jeremiah preached for 5 years before the book of the law was found. Josiah was planting seeds. Josiah started to look for the Lord when he was 16. He didn't actually start acting on it until he was 20, in the 12th year. You read this all in 2 Chronicles. When he was 20 years old, he started doing things to undo the bad things his parents did. Got the attention of God. Jeremiah, who lived in Jerusalem, Hilkiah's son, the high priest's son, the word of the Lord came to him. Now you have Jeremiah sowing with tears. I mean, planting with tears. He's preaching to the dead people. Josiah going around doing all these incredible acts and seeing nothing. He does this for 23 years. When Josiah dies, There's nothing there. Jeremiah preaches for another 11 years. Well, guess what? When Josiah died, there's some people in the ages between 5 and 10. My favorite children's ministry class. Long time ago, every time we get the 5-year-olds, you ever teach 5-year-olds? You teach them, they remember everything. Much better than you thought. You know who the 5-year-olds were? Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These are the people who, when Josiah died, they would have heard the stories of Josiah's bravery, Josiah's willingness to face Necho and die, because he thought that Necho was going to Assyria, who was going to get the Jews who were in captivity, because Josiah had deep conviction about clearing up all the nonsense and bringing the glory back to Israel. But he was too late. So he thought, he planted all of these seeds and died and saw nothing. His own children didn't listen. So he thought he had nothing. Jeremiah thought he sowed all these tears. He had nothing. What he had was Daniel, who went all the way through the captivity, survived all the kings, came out on the other side and brought back a remnant, rebuilt the very thing Jeremiah was crying about. Jeremiah thought he had nothing. See, planting seeds is how you multiply. Adding is your talent. Yes, you go and you share your faith. See, the multiplication is not about what you preach. It's about what you are. You plant who you are. It dies. It looks like nothing has happened. The tears are watering it. And then later, something breaks through the ground and it multiplies and it's unstoppable. But it looks like nothing wrong. We over the years say Jeremiah had no converts. He converted Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How do you know that he converted them? Well, after Jeremiah, there was no preaching. They were in captivity. That's where they got their inspiration from Jeremiah and Josiah. You want to have the faith to multiply. You have to have the willingness to be the right thing and then a willingness to die. Now, there's some follow-up scriptures that you can look through and you can see that this principle is constantly true. Remember the apostles, when they went into the town in John chapter 4, they went to food and they came to food. Bad attitude with a woman. Why is he talking to her? We think she was a prostitute. Seems likely. Dead wrong. Their perception of her, although it seems sincere, it was dead wrong. She heard, she had a willingness to die. How do you know that? Because she went to the town and said, come see the man who told me everything I've ever done. Well, what would those hypocritical half-Jews would have done if she told them? They would have stoned her. She didn't care. So she came back to town, left her water. Peter and the guys didn't get it, so they just came back with food. Their fruit did not come until after, when Peter was restored, and he said, someone will take you where you are not ready to go. When Peter was finally ready, and he got it, I'm ready to die now. That's when you get 3,000 in one day. That's when you read a chapter later, it's to 5,000. Your willingness to let it all go and to be ready to die. That's where multiplication comes from, not the work that you're actually doing. It's not what you speak, it's what you are. So the faith to multiply is an understanding that I'm ready to lay down my life for this message. And with that,